The fact remains a fact. Testimonies about UFOs continue to evoke astonishment and fear. One of the eyewitnesses shares his experience. "I saw a UFO. An extraordinary event took place in a small town in Pennsylvania. Witnesses describe an object that had no wings, tail section, engines, windows, or doors. An adult person could fit inside it," one of them recounts. "Shocking information came from Idaho, where a bright light appeared above the trees. We saw a very bright light," recalls the witness. UFOs, which always appear unexpectedly, began to emerge from behind the trees. One of the eyewitnesses describes a close encounter with a helicopter and a UFO. "We nearly had an aviation accident." Terrified women who were pursued by a hostile object share their experiences. "That object also turned right, and that's when I truly got scared." There are astonishing reports discussing evidence that confirms the existence of UFOs. One of the witnesses noticed something covered with a tarp in a truck. Military personnel who witnessed a UFO while on duty report, "The light approached at high speed, then stopped and changed direction." The scandalous story of a man who faced threats for his words also draws interest. "They said that if I didn't keep my mouth shut, they would put me in jail." Since 1947, UFOs have puzzled and frightened witnesses when the first official document recording their existence appeared. Around the world, thousands of people have been shocked by cases of visual contact with UFOs. One of the eyewitnesses describes, "I saw a large triangular thing with 3 bright lights. It flew over my house." Witnesses report encounters that were so close that they could examine the UFO in detail. "They tilt to the side and emit bright beams," one of them adds. Sometimes these strange objects truly frighten innocent people. In Scranton, Pennsylvania, a mysterious craft chased a woman through the air. "That object also turned right, and that's when I truly got scared." Many victims were traumatized by what they saw. It was shaking all over. It was just trembling. In the dark, one of the witnesses experiences anxiety. "I am not afraid of some monsters, but because I know aliens exist, and I do not want to meet them." Some witnesses support their claims with astonishing video footage and testimonies from local police. In Gulf Breeze, Florida, a man captured a real UFO on video. "It remains a fact. I saw a UFO and filmed it," he says, and his words are confirmed by neighbors. Now many more people are seeing UFOs than 5 years ago, and this is encouraging. Kecksburg, Pennsylvania is a small, quiet town where, after the appearance of a UFO, locals divided into skeptics and believers in aliens. One of them recalls, "I looked up at the sky and saw this red fiery ball. It was definitely not a meteor." Witnesses describe how the object turned and flew directly at them, then suddenly began to descend sharply. "I took a flashlight and started making my way to where it landed. The object had no wings, tail section, engines, windows, or doors. An adult person could fit inside standing up," adds the witness. "It had some inscriptions resembling Egyptian, some stars, circles, lines, something like that. The shape of the object was very strange, like an acorn, but that was just the beginning." After a while, 2 men emerged from the woods. One of them, possessing an excellent posture and an authoritative voice, immediately revealed himself as military. He inspected the object, then looked at the witnesses and declared that being in this area was now prohibited. The truck that arrived at the scene empty left again with the object covered by a tarp. What really happened that night? Some residents claim that nothing special occurred. Perhaps they just do not want to believe in the unusual. And if so, why? The residents of Kecksburg have split into 2 groups, skeptics and those who believe in aliens. Some of them have been neighbors their entire lives, and after these events they stopped communicating. One believes and the other does not. Experts are confident that some residents of Kecksburg may have been involved in intentional fabrication. In many cases, people may have mistaken an ordinary meteor for a UFO. This does indeed happen. One local resident expressed confusion. "I don't understand how people can say that nothing happened, as so many people saw those strange lights that night." Something was definitely there. According to official documents, there were at least 212 military personnel at the scene that night. This is an established fact. So why are so many people convinced that nothing happened on that strange night? UFO researcher Stan Gordon, who has been studying this topic for many years, noted that not all witnesses are trustworthy. I want to say that not all of them saw exactly a UFO. Someone could have mistaken it for a meteor, he added. Nevertheless, he has dozens of testimonies from people who did not know each other, and their accounts of what they saw and experienced that night are remarkably similar. There is no direct evidence or traces of the crash, so Gordon's investigation is based solely on witness accounts. This information has not yet been published. As always in such cases, one has to rely on witness testimonies, which raises questions. Soon after the events in Kecksburg, Clifford Stone witnessed a strange object being brought to the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. This was happening 300 kilometers from Kecksburg. "I noticed that there was something in the truck covered with a tarp. It was about 3 meters tall and 6 meters in diameter. It resembled a lollipop in shape," he recalled. When his friend said that the answer to all questions about UFOs lay beneath that tarp, Clifford was intrigued. Do the residents of the small town know the truth? Many continue to hope that this mystery will be unraveled. People need to know the truth, regardless of what that object was and what really happened. What have they been hiding from us for 27 years? Wonders one local resident. Furthermore, even more shocking evidence of the existence of UFOs. It was a craft that moved at incredible speed. The undeniable account of police officers who witnessed the UFO confirms this. "I saw about 5 bright dots in the sky." Authentic video recordings of the UFO made by witnesses during the appearance of alien ships over Earth will soon be shown. We have a whole series of testimonies about daytime encounters with UFOs. We will find out whether these recordings are just ordinary fakes. "You may not believe me, but the fact remains. I saw a UFO and filmed it," claims one of the witnesses. Do aliens pose a real threat to humanity? "This object also turned right, and that's when I really got scared," shares her experience one of the witnesses. "Why do the military keep information about UFOs secret and make their personnel remain silent about what they saw? We were ordered not to say anything to anyone outside the Military Information Center." "It is so, it is true," says one of the military personnel. "The commander told him that he must remain silent. We will tell you about a group of civilians who decided to dig for the truth. The Air Force is hiding information about UFOs, and we are trying to obtain it. In conclusion, our unique investigation will be presented. Skeptics claim that UFO witnesses, such as Eneloni, are trustworthy. However, what if it is about a police officer who swore an oath to always tell the truth?" Investigator John Hilley from the police department in Cleveland, Ohio, shares his official statement about the events that occurred that night. He recounts that his team took off from Ford Columbus Airport at approximately 20:30. In the sky, they noticed an object burning with red light, which was cigar-shaped and had a flashing green light on its side. During training exercises that took place the night before the incident, military personnel encountered a UFO over the city of Mansfield, Ohio. Hilley recalls, "We nearly had an aviation accident. I saw a red light on the starboard side. At first, I thought it was probably the wing of another aircraft, but then we saw that the object was approaching us. It had no wings, no windows. It did not look like a regular airplane." Other crew members who also saw the UFO provided written testimonies. Hilley emphasizes that this craft was moving at an incredible speed and likely noticed them before they noticed it. "It tracked us effortlessly as all our navigation lights were on," he adds. Over Mansfield, the UFO flew so close to the helicopter that the pilot had to take extreme measures, sharply descending. The helicopter was descending at a speed of 150 kilometers per hour. When it reached an altitude of 500 meters, the UFO directed a dazzling beam, very wide and conical, of green light at the helicopter. "I have never seen anything like it before," says Hilly. Suddenly, somehow the beam began to pull the helicopter towards the UFO. It scanned us for a while, then apparently gathered the necessary information and flew away. After the object disappeared to the west, the helicopter pilot noticed that despite the descent, all instruments indicated that he had ascended to an altitude of 1,500 meters. "We observed this object for probably 5 minutes or more. It was a UFO. No doubt about it." This incredible incident is corroborated by 2 people who observed it from the ground, Irma DeLong and her son Charles. "The children were screaming, 'Let's stop,'" recalls Irma. "Finally, I stopped the car and I jumped out. I remember that the entire sky was filled with shimmering green light. To be honest, I was scared. But even at that moment, it did not occur to me that it could be a UFO." Investigator Hilly and his team gathered 2 groups of witnesses and established the exact location of the event. They traced the flight path of the helicopter and created an accurate diagram. Alan Hynek, the chief director of the UFO Study Center, questioned the crew members in detail. Their descriptions of the UFO were remarkably similar to each other, and the most unpleasant feeling, according to them, was that the strange craft was clearly intending to destroy them. After the incident, the helicopter was completely out of order. The helicopter number was 1534. I remember that machine very well. After the UFO incident, it no longer worked. "All the instruments failed the very next day," says Hilly. "What could have caused such malfunctions? Perhaps an ordinary meteorite?" "No. A meteorite has absolutely nothing to do with this. We tracked it for 5 minutes. Meteorites cannot fly across the sky for that long. Even a child knows that." Investigator John Hilly and several other witnesses saw the flying saucer, but so far none of them could explain the purpose of its appearance. Thousands of kilometers away from Mansfield, in the states of Idaho and Washington, people are also encountering UFOs. One of the witnesses recalls, "Over there, above those trees, we noticed a very bright light. It was as if someone had set up a laser show, and these ships were tilting to the side and emitting some bright beams of light." The witness continues, "I called the police station in Post Falls. They came and asked what we thought it was. I simply handed the binoculars to the officer and said, 'See for yourself.' In the state of Idaho, in the city of Post Falls, the police were literally inundated with calls from residents reporting UFO sightings." One of the officers, while at a cemetery, noted that reports of flickering lights in the sky were causing alarm among the locals. "They said something was flying in the sky," he recalls. "The first thing we did was run outside and see if there really was something in the sky. And yes, it was there. A white light and multicolored lights that seemed to be spinning. There were red, green, blue, purple, and golden lights, and they were all flashing. It was beautiful." The object that was observed resembled 2 plates stacked together, with portholes glowing at the bottom. In the center was a bright red light. One of the residents of Post Falls captured this on video, and the footage clearly shows one of the objects in the sky emitting an extremely bright glow. "Not far from the filming location, near Newman Lake, I was nearly blinded by this otherworldly light," shares one of the witnesses. "I was driving on the road to Westman Lake. It was around midnight. Out of nowhere, a stream of blinding white light came crashing down on me from above. I stopped, opened the door, and looked up. All I saw was an incredibly bright light directly above me. I was terribly frightened, stepped on the gas, and got out of there." He headed to his friend who lived nearby. "For several days I couldn't come to my senses. He was scared, trembling all over, very pale. I served in the Army, piloted planes, but I had never seen anything like it. This craft was simply gigantic. The light spot was about 100 meters in diameter, if not more. McClure, one of the witnesses, called Colonel Jerry Rose to find out if the craft had military origins. Based on my own experience in the Air Force, I can say that it was 100% not an airplane. I know very well that such airplanes do not exist, not even here in America. He continues, "In the dark, I feel anxiety not because I fear some monsters, but because I know that aliens exist, and I do not want to meet them. Because there is nothing good to expect from them." The narrative goes on to mention real UFO witnesses sharing their stories. We have about 500 UFO witnesses and around 206 registered cases of encounters with these objects. You will see a real unidentified flying object. The fact remains, I saw a UFO and filmed it. An expert who studied the film confirmed its authenticity. Photographs, videotapes, witness interviews, all of it is true, terrified witnesses. This object also turned right, and then I truly got scared. Complex questions about the origins of this ultra-modern technology remain unanswered. Speed 7,000 kilometers per hour. And why do the military silence both civilians and their own personnel? I took several pictures. I was told that if they fell into someone else's hands, I would end up in prison or in a mental institution, one of the two. The witness expresses the opinion that the facts are being concealed with the tacit consent of the FBI because it is not in their interest to tell people about UFOs. We will provide answers to all these questions in our unique investigation. The story takes us to Gulf Breeze, Florida, where residents also witnessed unusual phenomena. Why do people so often see UFOs in the picturesque little town in Florida? The strange object you are currently observing may very well be an alien spacecraft. In Gulf Breeze, a beautiful resort area, numerous UFO sightings have also been reported. A small group of concerned residents is conducting their own investigation. Most of them belong to MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, an independent organization of enthusiasts who believe in extraterrestrials. The military, whom the witnesses approached, assured that nothing unusual had occurred in the area, dismissing it all as rumors and fabrications. This was quite a typical response from the military. In 1987, Ed Walters and his wife Frances took several stunning photographs of a UFO. At first, Ed was afraid he would be ridiculed, but he ultimately sent the photographs to Ain Kuku, the publisher of the Gulf Breeze Sentinel. After that, the number of witnesses began to grow rapidly. In one of the films, a red light unexpectedly turns into white and starts to blink, creating extraordinary diamond-like flashes. The scale of this glow suddenly changed, indicating the phenomenal speed of the craft. Ed confidently asserts that at that time, our technology could not create such high-speed machines. Soon, dozens of people began to come forward with their video evidence. Nighttime UFO footage was not uncommon, but it is very difficult to fake films where UFOs appear during the day. Ed notes that they have a whole series of testimonies about daytime encounters with UFOs. He believes that the evidence obtained in Gulf Breeze is far more significant than all previous UFO testimonies combined. According to him, 90% of witnesses see UFOs at night, while only 10% encounter them during the day. Nevertheless, today many people, including medical professionals, lawyers, and real estate agents, claim to have seen alien spacecraft. This is not just a group of ufologists running around and shouting about lights in the sky. Ed shows one of the videos filmed in Gulf Breeze. All daytime UFO footage from the past year has been genuine, and he is certain of it. He himself has seen strange, bright flashes in the sky during the day. Ed points to the sandy dunes to the north and exclaims, "My God, look over there!" A shimmering object hovers briefly in the sky before disappearing. Video expert Jeff Sanyo confirms the authenticity of Walter's footage. He points out that during the filming, An oscilloscope captures the vibration of the camera in Ed's hands. A multitude of interferences that arise when shooting with a non-professional camera completely excludes the possibility of video editing or forgery. Walters also took a photograph in which, as he claims, a fighter jet can be seen that fled due to a collision with a UFO. The fighter jet flew further and at the last moment veered to the right. Ed recalls that it seemed to him that he was about to collide with the UFO. Some consider Walters an ordinary charlatan, but he insists, "You may not believe me, but the fact remains that I saw a UFO and captured it on film." This video document turned out to be surprisingly clear. The UFO he was tracking came from the southeast, flew over his head at an incredibly high speed, and disappeared somewhere to the northwest. This case became a source of valuable information about the flight trajectory of the UFO. Ed shows a blurry image of the object, which seems to be moving quite slowly. Then he suggests watching the recording in slow motion. The object hovers in the air and then unexpectedly darts away, covering 10 kilometers in a fraction of a second. This is an unimaginable speed. Another local resident captured a UFO on film. The craft and its shape resemble other UFOs. Different video recordings confirm the same testimonies. Ed emphasizes that they are correlating the evidence, and ultimately the puzzle comes together. Meanwhile, the MUFON Association continues to grow. Ed says that they are developing a program to gradually inform people around the world that we are not alone. Who knows, maybe one day a flying saucer will land in a clearing in front of the White House, and there will be no more doubt that they are here among us. He shares his hopes. Hundreds of UFO witnesses in broad daylight. This is a real encounter. What does all this mean? Some suggest that contacts with UFOs are becoming increasingly frequent as humanity approaches the moment when it will finally meet its neighbors in the universe. An example of this is the case in Gulf Breeze. In the program Unsolved Mysteries, real UFO witnesses share their stories. One of them, a police officer who is initially skeptical, recounts how his opinion changed. He recalls, "When the call came in, I didn't believe that there was actually a UFO out there. And then I saw these 5 bright dots in the sky." The case of the UFO sighting in Scranton also draws interest. That evening, when it was almost dark, a group of witnesses stood under the power lines. Suddenly, as if out of nowhere, objects began to appear from behind the trees. "They were everywhere, no matter where we turned," recalls one of the witnesses. "I remember not hearing a single sound." Attention is also given to the role of the military in the incident at Chard Creek. One witness describing his experiences says, "I thought, why is all this happening to me? These people came to me and said that if I didn't keep my mouth shut, they would put me in jail." He emphasizes that the military threatened the civilians who accidentally witnessed the UFO, adding, "We were ordered not to say anything to anyone outside the Military Information Center." And this continued for 15 to 20 years, Scranton, Pennsylvania. Christy Steer was returning home alone that evening. At first she thought it was just a car, but when she looked back, she saw that there was nothing on the road. "Then I adjusted the mirror and saw this object in the air. It was flying right behind my car," she recounts. "I was watching it in the rearview mirror and suddenly it flew up beside me so I could easily see it from the window. I kept driving forward, then turned right, and this object turned behind me too. And that's when I really got scared. It was terrifying." She drove into the driveway, ran to the front door, and burst into the house, saying that something was following her. Later, when the lights returned to the Steer home, her husband, Harry, captured stunning footage of the UFO. "I was very excited because everything was happening right before my eyes. I couldn't understand where this glow was coming from and what was going on at all," he shares. Harry called the police to report what he had seen. Within a few minutes, Officer Cayley arrived with 2 police officers. "While I was filming the objects, they stood next to me in the yard holding their radios," he recalls. "That night, when the call came in, I didn't believe it was really a UFO. Then I saw these 5 bright dots in the sky and immediately realized that they were far from stars. The police tried to determine what kind of aircraft might be involved by calling the local airport. We thought that there could be regular passenger planes flying at that time. But the radar system didn't pick up anything, he recounts. I thought that there might have been some issues with the radar, but they called me back right away and said that all the equipment was functioning properly. A few days later, Harry saw the lights in the sky again. It was already almost dark. We were standing under the power lines, and suddenly out of nowhere these objects began to appear from behind the trees. They were everywhere we turned. I remember not hearing a sound. As always, there were skeptics who did not believe in the existence of UFOs. Listen, we recorded on video several unusual objects and lights. It was the 8th of January, and I was not the only one who saw it. What else can I say? This footage speaks for itself. In Cherry Creek, a small provincial town in the state of New York, Harold Butcher, when he was 16, witnessed a UFO that changed his life forever. While working in the barn, he suddenly noticed that the radio he was listening to crackled and turned off. Then he saw a bright glow in the sky and ran to the window to figure out what was going on. Outside the window, right before his eyes, a giant object descended to the ground. Soon, 2 teams arrived at the scene. Project Blue Book, a special Air Force unit investigating UFO cases, and NICAP, a group of civilian researchers. NICAP included scientists and retired military personnel who sought to uncover the truth about unidentified flying objects that were being concealed by the military. Witnesses felt that the Air Force was withholding information. Activists followed Project Blue Book, finding witnesses that its members had missed. These witnesses had their stories that were worth hearing. The military from Blue Book proposed numerous theories about what had happened, including suggestions of an airplane or a balloon, but they were unable to identify the object. Despite their constant references to a lack of information, there were plenty of facts. Electromagnetic effects, traces in the fields, unusual glowings, and much more. This was a classic case of a UFO sighting. One of the witnesses describes the object. It looked like an airplane, very large. It landed in the field and released 3 legs. It resembled 2 large dishes, one on top of the other, and it had a row of rivets. It sat in the field for a good 5 minutes, so I got a good look at it. The witness also noted that his animals on the farm were behaving extremely restlessly, which added to the strangeness of the situation. Even more mysterious was the fate of 2 military personnel who also observed the UFO. After they wrote their report, no one heard from them again. Locals understood that they were taking a risk by sharing their observations. When the authorities finally acknowledged that the incident indeed took place, it confirmed the unusualness of the case. Dick Nelson, who lives near the Butcher farm, was communicating with the military on the day the UFO appeared. He recalls how the police, upon seeing the object, changed their mood and began to doubt what to believe. Then, people from the Air Force arrived, and unexpectedly an officer appeared at the scene, ordering the area around the farm to be cordoned off. The Air Force officer began to threaten the farmers. I took several pictures of that thing, but the military took them from me and did not return them, Nelson recounts. He adds that the military threatened him with prison if he made his photographs public. Nevertheless, the Air Force officers made a serious mistake as they failed to identify the object. This fact was particularly telling, as they usually provided simple explanations for such incidents. But in this case, they could not name either an airplane, a balloon, or a meteorite. It turned out that the Air Force would do everything to conceal the truth. The witness continues, "I thought, why should I go through all this? Why should I sit in prison because of some aliens?" He then recalls how his friends called him outside, and they all saw a light high in the sky. At that moment, a fireball darted between two objects. The witness wonders, were the military trying to hide information about the appearance of the UFO? He believes that facts are being concealed with the silent consent of the FBI, as it is not advantageous for the authorities. In their unique investigation, they summarize that UFOs suspiciously often appear near military air bases. One such case occurred when the American aircraft carrier Franklin Roosevelt was conducting exercises off the coast of Cuba. Suddenly, a shining object appeared in the sky, and the witness saw a bright light to the right of the aircraft carrier. On the upper deck of the military ship, a group of sailors noticed a small object of indeterminate shape that was pursuing their vessel and then rapidly headed towards them. One of the witnesses describes, "It looked like a star, only much brighter. The glowing object followed them, stopped at high speed, changed direction, and accelerated again." Despite the fact that the military was supposed to follow established procedures, 3 veterans were unable to file a report about the incident. No official records remain of this incident, and strangely, it is impossible to find the other men who saw the UFO from the ship. During the maneuvers known as Operation Rush, numerous UFOs were observed, including a mysterious object that pursued a military aircraft. A local reporter managed to capture this incident in photographs, documenting the object before it disappeared at high speed. "We knew it was not an airplane because an airplane cannot fly and suddenly stop," claims one of the witnesses. Leon Treadwell, who served on a military vessel near Rio de Janeiro, also witnessed the unusual phenomenon. He describes how 2 strange aircraft were positioned about 300 meters above one another when a fireball zipped between them. "No one understood what the heck was going on," he says. The officers who witnessed this event were completely bewildered. Later, they signed a document stating that the information should not leave the Combat Information Center. In a conversation with the commander of the aircraft carrier in Virginia, Treadwell was advised to remain silent about what had happened. "But I did not listen to him," he admits. "People laughed and said they did not believe me. But I was there, and I saw it." These incidents were recorded in the Blue Book Project, yet the question remains, why were UFOs observing military ships and aircraft? Most likely they were interested in our weaponry, Treadwell speculates. They were not following us by chance. At that time, only our aircraft carrier could transport a hydrogen bomb, and that clearly attracted them. Over the last 2 decades, UFOs have frequently appeared near nuclear weapons storage facilities, but military leadership refuses to confirm the testimonies of people who have faithfully served their country. I think they are hiding facts from us with the tacit consent of the FBI because it is not in their interest to tell people about UFOs, says Treadwell. "I will not rest until I find someone who was with me on the deck that day and saw the same thing I did." Does UFOs really exist? Are people deceived, or are these natural phenomena? The answer to these questions may come from a unique investigation. Rare footage of UFOs in daylight, testimonies from a woman who was pursued by a mysterious spacecraft, all this and much more in this investigation. One of the witnesses recounts, "I saw a large triangular thing with 3 bright lights. It flew over my house. It stopped and seemed to look at us." The residents of the city are divided into 2 parts. Some believe that UFOs are alien ships, while others remain skeptics. These arguments are supported by irrefutable evidence, claims one of the enthusiasts. When one of the witnesses said that under the tarp lies the answer to all questions about UFOs, his friend was intrigued. "We have dozens of testimonies from people who do not know each other at all. All these stories about what they saw and experienced that night are remarkably similar." He adds, "It had no wings, it had no windows, it was not an airplane, believe me. However, can the accounts of UFOs be fabricated? The fact remains that I saw a UFO and filmed it," says one of the witnesses. Skeptics put forward theories explaining that UFOs have nothing to do with aliens or advanced technology. Actually, in many cases, people could have seen a regular meteor. That happens, notes one of them. But if UFOs are not spacecraft, why do the military hide their existence? He recalled how he took several pictures of the mysterious object, but the military took them away and never returned them. Watching this phenomenon, he heard one of the military personnel say, "It is now prohibited to be in this area." Meanwhile, questions about real people who have seen unidentified flying objects remain relevant. In the dark, he feels anxiety not from fear of monsters, but from the realization that aliens exist, and he does not want to meet them. As soon as he got out of his car, his gaze rose to the sky and he saw 4 bright dots. Among the people who claim to have seen UFOs are not only ordinary citizens, but also doctors, lawyers, real estate agents. This is not just a group of lunatics shouting about lights in the sky. The existence of UFOs is confirmed by many observations. People have repeatedly recorded the appearance of unidentified flying objects in the earthly sky. However, who operates these crafts remains a mystery. This is yet another unsolved enigma. Who knows, maybe one fine day a flying saucer will land on the lawn in front of the White House. They flew away, but promised to return.